But yeah, speaking of tells that we both have, or that I have, Derek has a tell if you guys want to pay me like a lot of money. I can tell you later.
Oh my God, no. I will pay. Actually, how do I prevent this from happening?
Don't edit that out of the video. I'm just kidding. But I do have a leak that I had to identify quickly. And this is a leak that fucking almost everybody has, but we don't really realize it. And this is part of like being really self-aware. And my leak, which may or might not be Derek's leak too, we bet with different denominations depending on if we have it or not.
Yeah.
And so that's something that, you know, if you are just trying to get into the feel player type of like setting, you just want to know what to look out for because you're not good at reading people, fine. Listen and look for their chip tells. That's like the easiest fucking thing, right? You don't have to be like an expert at reading body language. Just pay attention to the way that they bet, the denominations that they bet, and the style of betting.
Yeah,
so
that's actually one of the most consistent ones. I will agree with you, especially for players who are a little bit more inexperienced. It's almost like 100% correct.
yeah. And still in Vegas, you can pick up on these like easily. And it's really just like, oh my gosh, did that just happen? Is it just that easy to pick up like if you're bluffing or not? That you just have to pay attention to the way that you bet? And that was something that I didn't really realize that I was doing too, which is really annoying. To where like, especially in the beginning when I first started playing, I realized that I would just bet one oversized chip, whether it's a 5K chip or a 1K chip, depending on what level it is. If I had it, okay, I would just bet one chip. If I didn't have it, it was a little bit of the blacks, it was a little bit of the yellows, it was one of each. I don't know. Yep. And you just want to subconsciously make it look more intimidating, so you pick up more chips, right? And you bet that way. And that it was as easy as that. How to fix that. Then I realized that the style that you bet too says a lot. And so I had to understand that the way that I put in chips needed to stay consistent. So a lot of people will gently put in their chips. And sometimes it means that they were bluffing versus when they just like splashed it almost into the pot.
Yeah.
That's also a tell. And then there was the classic like side by side with one chip on top. For whatever reason, this is almost always a bluff with people. For whatever reason, it's like the five stack, one chip on top. Almost always.
I don't think I've ever tried to draw a pattern from that, but that's interesting.
Derek does this.
All right. I'm glad you came on already. This is probably already saving me tens of thousands of dollars.
I don't know if you do it anymore, but I don't think I played with you for maybe 2 years.
Yeah, it's been a while. It was weird because for a while, every time you came, you were always at the table with me. It was so strange. And then actually that kind of stopped happening, which is a good thing for me.
Yeah. And for whatever reason, you were always to my direct left.
Yeah.
So yeah, I had to psychoanalyze the shit out of you because you were always at my table. The style of betting, the way that people are putting in the chips are just as important as the denominations that they're using too. And also their body language while they're putting in the chips. Just pay attention to that. And then the most important thing is to pay attention to when they're all in. Because a lot of people like to just stay like frozen.
Yeah, I do.
Which is fine. You know, stay consistent. But even when they're frozen, you can tell if they're uncomfortable frozen, like they're stiff, or if they're still a little bit like, you know, wiggly, if they're just like, okay, they're like looking around, like where are their eyes going? Because a lot of people, for whatever reason, this is also kind of a weird tell that stays kind of consistent, but like where their eyes go is really important when they're all in. If they're kind of just like staring at one thing, you know, versus like looking around, even if they're not like this, right? They're just kind of looking around the table. That's also a tell. Like a lot of people, when they're frozen, they're just staring at one thing. A lot of times it's a bluff because they're just so uncomfortable that they can't even move, not even their eyeballs. So
this is one thing that I've actually practiced is when I'm all in, I've learned to situate myself in sort of a relaxed state and then just kind of like literally just stare blankly at something, right? And then just sit there and not move. But I have not applied that to everything. I mean, I feel like I need to apply almost that same principle to everything else.
Yeah. Some people have gotten like a real psychopath on this and mastered it where they lean back and they stare at you.
I can't do that. I can't just like stare at people when I'm all in. It is so silly.
I can't either. And I admire those people because I'm like, wow, this is next level, because I don't know if my eyes would just be like, you know, if they'd be like way too big when I'm staring at them, or if I'm just gonna give myself away if I'm staring at them. But like, it makes people feel uncomfortable when you stare at them too. So like, to stare back is like another meta mind game that I just have not been able to accomplish yet. Also, because I feel like it might work to my disadvantage, because a lot of people, when you stare back at them, they think it's like a challenge.
Yeah.
And they really don't like that when a woman does.
And then you're gonna get called. Yep.
Yeah. So it's not something that to where like if I have the nuts and I do that, I have to stay consistent, right? You have to do it every time, or else people are gonna realize it, right? So it's like I've chose to not do this.
It's interesting. That's actually part of the decision of why I also don't do it, because literally like you're challenging people. That's right.
Yeah. It's an underlying weird thing that happens to where like you look at them and they're like, oh, you're not scared of me? Okay, I'm gonna call. I want to see what you have. You're like,
You know, I think that's a fun part of poker. It is like an emotional, you know, like people games. These kind of tips are fantastic because, you know, I think maybe Chance takes it too far. He's literally just staring you down 3 minutes every single time. But I think that's like part of the game that you have to figure out, and it makes you get better when you're getting stared down and you're being more self-conscious. There are things that you can think about on how you can improve, and that will actually save you tens of thousands of dollars. You have no idea how much that chip tell has gotten me in terms of like pots inside of Turtle, where I just have absolutely no idea what to do. I'm like, well, you stuck like 500 chips in there for no reason. So I call.
Yeah, exactly. This is like part of the reason I really feel like face coverings and sunglasses at the table should not be allowed.
No, I don't think so either. Yeah.
Yeah, because it takes away the fun of live. Because really, like, you're just like playing against like the screen, the computer screen at that point. Like, it actually, people don't realize how much of an advantage you get when you wear sunglasses.
Yeah, it's
it's huge. It's like almost half of the live tells that you're kind of just like taking away from people. It's almost like when people like walk away when they're all in. That's bullshit. I should be able to like watch you and like pick up tells the same way that you pick up tells on me. When people just walk away when they're all in because they don't want people to pick up on anything, I'm just like, oh my god, this is like this should not be allowed.
Yeah, live poker, part of the skill. It is the live tells, the how you present yourself, your patterns. I mean, that's part of the game. So yeah, like that, I think that's all fair. It's absolutely all fair.
Yeah.
Christina, this was amazing. I learned so much, and I've actually learned some tells about myself. So now I'm going to have to go back through like how I'm putting in chips when I'm all in and stuff and making big bets. The poker community definitely appreciates this, and we hope to have you back on the show again soon.
Sounds good. I'll come back.
Thanks, Christina.
Thanks, Derek.